Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Blue is the New White podcast. We have a returning guest today. I'm really excited to get him back on the show since the last conversation we had was just absolutely incredible. Mr. Brandon Eckenrode, now the Executive Director of the Collision Repair Education Foundation, or CREF for short, CREF, returns to talk all about what they've been up to the past year. Now, if you have not caught that episode that he was first on, it was December of 2022, just about a year ago, and I believe it was episode 137, so definitely check that one out. It's a lot of pretext to what we're going to talk about today, but you don't have to listen to the episode today. But it is a great episode. I encourage you to check that out. Anyway, this one is important, guys, not only for the collision industry, but for the rest of the skilled trades as well. CREF does just an absolutely incredible job maximizing the exposure of the trade and pouring into students and institutions who can actually move the needle in closing the gap that we talk about all the time. So listen, we talk about the industry as a whole, and Brandon gives some incredible examples of some of the good that this foundation is doing across the United States. Definitely tune in to check out those stories and really feel the impact that they're making. So a couple of resources to check out right off the bat after you finish this episode or before, your choice. Be sure to buy a raffle ticket to win the completely restored 69 Camaro that we spoke about last year, to be completed in a couple of months. It's for a great cause, guys. Check out www.operativetalent.com to buy a raffle ticket. Also, make sure you check out the foundation website itself at www.collisioneducationfoundation.org. And finally, be sure to vote for CREF at the LKQ Community Foundation Holiday Fundraiser. You can vote up to once per day per device. The link is going to be here in the description for the show or in the social post of the clip that we post. So anyway, before I get into my signature outro, intro, whatever, I want to let you know again that we're in the process of unveiling the next big thing by Blue is the New White. Check it out today at bitnew.coach. That's bitnw.coach to see what we're up to there. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and our website at blueisthenewwhite.com to receive all the latest updates. You can now find this podcast on iHeartRadio, Sirius XM, and Pandora. As always, guys, we rely on word of mouth from our listeners to further this mission. So if you enjoy this episode, please do us a favor. Take a second to rate it, review it, and share it with anybody who might be interested. The future generations of tradespeople depend on it. They depend on you. So thank you again, and enjoy this episode of Blue is the New White with Brandon Eckenrode of the Collision Repair Education Foundation. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Blue is the New White podcast. We have a returning guest today. Really awesome person, awesome foundation. If you haven't listened to his episode, Mr. Brandon Eckenrode, we interviewed him last December, I believe. I don't remember exactly what episode number it was. I think it was in the 130s, maybe 137. Don't quote me on that, though. Just scroll back in Spotify, scroll back in Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Make sure you catch the first episode with Brandon because it provides an incredible backstory of who he is and what the foundation does, all of that. We'll do a little recap today. But Brandon, welcome back to Blue is the New White. Happy to have you here, man.
Great to be back, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited about our discussion today. I'm excited to get caught up with what you've been doing. But first and foremost, for those who haven't heard your previous episode, can you kind of just give us an overview on who you are and what you do and what your company, what the foundation does?
Sure. So Brandon Eckenrode, Executive Director of the Collision Repair Education Foundation. I've been in the collision industry for just over 20 years and been with the foundation since 2009. And what we do is we are the collision industry's national 501c3 charity that works to support high school and post-secondary collision repair, auto body repair, school programs, students, and instructors nationwide. So this is everything from high school shop class, technical college, community college. If they're teaching auto body or collision repair, we, with our incredible industry partners and supporters, are there to help support them with donations, training, and be an advocate for them to try to recruit more students into this industry specifically.
Man, you're speaking my language and the language of our listeners, my friend.
Absolutely.
I'm super excited to get into this. Before we get into any of the stuff that you mentioned here, listen, on the last episode that we did, we had talked about an event that was coming up, right? The restoration of a vehicle.
Yes.
Right. And can you touch on that a little bit too? I'm wondering if some of our listeners might be wondering how that ended up.
No, I appreciate you asking too. So back in 2021, we announced an initiative with both KTL Restorations, which is based out of Danville, Virginia, and BASF, the paint company, where a 69 Camaro is getting rebuilt. And we have now, since our last conversation, over 60 build partners involved with this car that's being rebuilt. It should be complete within the next month or two. But this is going to be a raffle to where the winner obviously gets the 69 Camaro, and it'll actually be raffled off in September of 2024. But the name of the initiative is the Operative Talent. The name of the vehicle, as you know, maybe from like Gone in 60 Seconds, some cars have their actual name. So that name of the vehicle is Talent. But the funding that will be raised from this raffle will be specifically used for a PR campaign to promote the collision repair automotive industry career opportunities to the general public. Josh, as you know, like other technical trades, there's sometimes a misconception within the general public about what the different career paths, the earning potential are in the technical trades. And that's kind of why we're in the situation we are with a aging workforce and need for entry-level staff. But anyone around the country can go to operativetalent.com and buy a raffle ticket. But with the funds that will be raised from that opportunity or from that raffle, we will be able to fund that public campaign to basically, if you remember that Got Milk campaign of old, of just, that public service campaign of showcasing what this industry is about, the different career opportunities, and how these vehicles that we're driving are complex. There's a lot of technology involved, and this industry needs properly trained staff to come into this industry to make sure that these cars are repaired correctly. And that will be done through us making sure that we educate those out there in the general public. So whether it's parents, guardians, or even the younger generation, of really understanding what this industry is about and all the different opportunities. So people can go onto operativetalent.com. There's social media channels based from that website as well, so people can see updates on what's going on with the car. Our friends over at KTL are starting to get local students in that Danville, Virginia area involved with the rebuild as well. So it's a nice connection to them getting involved with the rebuilding of the car, because they will be the direct benefits of, again, showcasing what the different career opportunities are. So appreciate anyone going on and buying, obviously, a raffle ticket. If there's companies that are looking to get involved, but obviously the more funds that we can raise through that raffle, the broader of that PR campaign that we can do to the general public and start changing the mindset of those out there about what this industry is about and all the different opportunities that exist within it.
No, that's amazing. I really appreciate the thorough explanation there, and this is what got me on the last show, Brandon, is just the level of intricacy and passion and everything else that's being poured into these initiatives that you guys are doing. It seems to stand out from a lot of the other things that I'm seeing and that we're all seeing in other sectors of the skilled trades. And I just want to commend, the collision industry of all industries. Honestly, Brandon, this is not something I don't think yet that's top of mind for people as even, as you know, right, as even a career path. I mean, there's a ton of people out there probably like, what the hell is a collision industry? Right. But what you guys are doing, I haven't seen anything that garners as much attention to a single skilled trade foundation or sector even that you guys are doing. So hats off to you. Hats off to the foundation. I think it's incredible, and I'm excited to talk a little bit more about what you guys have been up to. Before we get into that, I don't mean to cut you off. I just want to clarify for the audience. I'd like to know exactly what your role is within the foundation.
Sure. So my current role is the executive director, which I just came into this role within this past year. I've been within the foundation since 2009. And in my role, a lot of it has to do with obviously leading the organization now, but obviously being in the industry for over 20 years, utilizing the connections and network that not just myself, but like you said, the reputation that the foundation has earned over the years as being a supporter of the technical schools, students and instructors nationwide. And we just recently participated or attended the SEMA show out in Las Vegas, second largest show, I think, in Las Vegas, only to the Consumer Electronics Show. But, we hear from instructors that say, without the foundation and the support that we're providing, a lot of these programs would not exist. So we're kind of a life support to them with the tools, the equipment, the supplies, the funding that they need. But my role is obviously leading the incredible team that we have that goes out on the industry's behalf to rally that support and make sure it's distributed to schools. But it's been an incredible career choice. I wouldn't change it for anything. But again, a lot of that credit and kudos needs to go back to the incredible team that the foundation has in all the efforts that we're doing, like you said, nationwide.
Incredible. And so congratulations to you and your team, for the impact that you're making across the industry. And I'm going to say industries because really it's going to touch a lot of the different skilled trades. So that's great. And you were about to say something before I cut you off, as I so often do. Do you remember what that was?
I don't, but it might come back to me.
Okay, that's great. Not a problem. I always do that to people. I'm sorry. Let's pick up here. You had mentioned the SEMA show in Las Vegas. Can you tell us a little bit about that? That seems like a good transition point.
So if those that are not familiar, the SEMA show involves the aftermarket industry. I think they average anywhere between, say, 160, 180,000 attendees from around the globe that attend that event. But it's a very long, incredible week of the industry coming together. It's a great opportunity for us to network and connect with current industry partners, but also prospective industry partners to get them involved with the foundation. But two key initiatives that we had out during that SEMA week was, one, there's some industry awards recognition evenings that we were able to recognize some industry volunteers, and then also recognized Audi and Volkswagen for an incredible donation that they recently made that we can get into a little more detail here shortly. But Wednesday morning of SEMA week, we hold a grant breakfast where collision school programs around the country have the opportunity to apply for what we call our benchmark grant. And we were very lucky and fortunate because of our industry partners that Wednesday morning we were able to announce nearly $700,000 in monetary grants that went to schools around the country. And it was at that reception where we announced those awards. We also had some, instructor guest speakers to talk about how much the support impacts them. And there was one instructor, just to kind of highlight to your audience, Josh, the situation that some of these schools are in. There was an instructor from the Houston area. He's a high school collision instructor, and he shared that his program this year has 150 students, and their total program budget is $3,000. But when you think about the tools, the equipment, the supplies, all that's needed to run a collision repair facility for a school, that is an incredible example of an underfunded program. And he shared that if without this support that is provided through the foundation and our industry partners, they'd be in trouble or they would not be able to teach the students. And we would see another collision school program possibly close, which we can't afford. Like the other technical industries that are out there, we can't afford for programs to close. We need more actually instances of programs opening up, which we can go into a little more detail because we have some success stories around that as well. But it was an incredible opportunity for us to hear firsthand from instructors and also our industry partners to hear from the instructors and the students on what this impact does for them. So as opposed to just the foundation telling them thank you, it's those that are the recipients of the support that were there firsthand to tell the industry thank you as well.
Wow, that is amazing. Fantastic. And is that every year? Is that the SEMA show? Does that happen every year?
SEMA shows every year. It's typically the very end of October, but early November is when that happens each year.
And is it just collision? What does SEMA stand for?
It's the aftermarket industry. So it's a wide mix of collision and everybody else. Yep.
Got it. Understand. Okay, cool. Wow. That's incredible. And that example that you gave is just, it's a little bit it's mind blowing. And I'm glad that you used that example because it is telling, right, of some of the things that we're battling in these industries, and without foundations and organizations like yours, we'd be in even a worse position than we are today, which is insane. So, all right. Moving on from that, you had mentioned something about Audi and Volkswagen and a donation. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what you were talking about with that?
So as I mentioned before about these schools being underfunded in a lot of cases, and there are some great examples where the administration in the school actually does support the program well. So I don't want to say it's the case across the country, but a lot of these schools don't have the budgets for sometimes even the essentials. So when we start to look at making sure that these students are learning on current model vehicles, any type of industry support is needed to make sure that the students have those available within their programs. And this past year, we were actually approached by both Audi and Volkswagen of America, where they kind of informed us that there was a situation where they had roughly 80 brand new 2023 model vehicles that through an unfortunate incident were slightly damaged. They could not be sold to the general public, but they were brand new, both electric and ICE vehicles that they wanted to donate to the foundation, which we then were able to work with them to get those distributed to schools around the country. So these schools, sometimes when you go into these programs, again, to no fault of their own, they're working on severely aged vehicles and they've been practicing on the same car for 5, 10, 15 years. So the fact that these vehicles were brand new, we're able to showcase the technology these vehicles have. It does several things. It obviously, like I mentioned before, allows the students to work on and see current model technology within these vehicles. But what it also does, in kind of a side, kind of roundabout way, is if there's students being brought in for, being considered, they're looking to consider different technical programs, it helps raise the perception and kind of showcases the different technology that is available for these students to work on in these high school and college collision school programs across the country. So it was an incredible gift by Audi and Volkswagen. I think it was roughly just over a $2 million in-kind donation to the value of all the vehicles. And I was able to, the week before Thanksgiving, go down to the Houston, Texas area, and we did a kind of a vehicle presentation where we had guests from not only the district, the school area, but also local representation from Audi and Volkswagen there to tell these students, basically, we need you. We need you to stay within this industry. There are a lot of different career paths available, but when they're working on those current model vehicles, it helps out everybody overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Question on that. How do Audi and VW come to find the foundation? Is there some kind of an outreach, or do they know about you? How do you guys get connected so they can make this incredible donation?
A lot of it is, through our work within the industry, which obviously includes vehicle manufacturers in addition to all the different industry segments. Again, we've kind of earned that reputation of, we're there to help support the schools. So it was very kind of them to think of us in terms of making that donation. And because we're very well connected with the schools, we're an easy partner to collaborate with to make sure that we find homes for whether it's vehicles or any of the other donations that we provide, whether it's tools, equipment, and things like that. So it was a process of working through of, figuring out what the vehicles were and getting through all the kind of the paperwork to make sure that all that's taken care of when handing them off to the schools and students. But what it has caused is through that announcement of that donation, there's other vehicle manufacturers now that we're starting to talk with who said, oh, we might have vehicles in the future as well that could be donated. So it's almost like a snowball effect of it won't be just that one donation and we can get others involved, which again, just helps out the entire industry as a whole.
Yeah, incredible. All right, I'm going to make you think here for a second before we get into our next topic. But so this is a topic I hear quite a bit, right? And when I say that I hear it quite a bit, I'm not talking about the collision industry. I'm talking about some of the other skilled trades industries. I'm talking about HVAC and being able to find rooftop equipments for students to work on. I'm talking about refrigeration and being able to find maybe slightly damaged walk-in units for kids to work on in trade schools and all the way down the line, electrical and plumbing and all these different areas. Do you have any topical advice for other industries to start making these connections? I mean, is there something, I don't want to say that you guys have a secret sauce, but you're doing very well with it. And if there's any ideas that anybody at a parallel sector in the skilled trades can garner from this show or from you, I'd love to explore that.
So I think what you mentioned earlier, and we briefly talked about this in our first conversation, we're unique in terms of I'm not aware of too many other foundation or charitable organizations like us in the other technical trades that are going out on behalf of those schools to do like what we do. So I think there's for those industries to possibly look to create foundations like us in their own their own industries. Because, Josh, we were actually formed by the industry back in 1991 because it was recognized, similar to like what you mentioned, it's been recognized in other industries and other trades, that there was a need for properly trained students, and we need more students to come out into the industry. So we were actually formed by the industry, a group of industry volunteers, and we've evolved over the years in terms of what we used to do and what we do now. But I think that there's an opportunity in all those different trades. And I know there's some like I want to say it's the American Welding Foundation and others. So there are some out there that go out on behalf and they support schools and students. But a lot of it comes down to, at least at the local level, and we talk about this and highlight this when we have opportunities to showcase how industry can get engaged and make sure that the students in schools in their local markets are well supported, is making sure those other industries and those other businesses reach out to the local technical schools and serve and volunteer on their advisory councils. That is a huge way for not only them to be there to support the schools, but it also helps showcase to the administration that there is businesses and employers that desperately need their students. Because what sometimes happens is if these programs in schools are looking and evaluating their program budgets, the technical trades are some of the more expensive programs to run versus some of the other programs that are, English class, math class. So it's vital for those programs to be not only be successful, but to survive when there is a line of employers out the door saying, we need these programs, we need these students. And that speaks volumes, as opposed to just the instructors saying, we need to keep this program around. It's the companies that are funding the schools by being there in the local public areas that, can help make sure that the schools have what they need, and or get corporations and businesses maybe at the larger level to be involved and make those kind of donations for the things like you mentioned that they need as well.
Incredible advice. I appreciate that. I hope you guys out there are listening, because you're absolutely right, Brandon. I mean, there's a lot of different industries, that all fall under the skilled trade umbrella that could greatly benefit from a foundation similar to yours, and that don't exist yet. I mean, that's an opportunity, to really make an impact and make a difference. So fantastic advice. Thank you.
Absolutely. And again, like I said, it's an investment that these local businesses can make, because what we typically say is, this is a national problem with a local solution. And that means actually getting involved. You can't just complain about the problem, be a solution to making helping to solve that issue that we and other technical trades are facing with the need for additional students, but also investing in those programs. So it actually recruits students to it as well. So there's that continuous pipeline of entry-level staff going into those trades.
Absolutely. Creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? But actually taking the action steps to do it.
Yep.
No, that's incredible. All right. Let's circle back. Let's get back on track. Let's move on to everything else that you've been doing over the past year or so. Now, there's something that I had just shared recently on my social networks, and something that I know is important to the foundation as well. You want to speak a little bit on the LKQ Community Foundation vote?
Absolutely. So LKQ, a corporation within our industry, they've got a community foundation, and what we just launched in conjunction with the LKQ Community Foundation is each year they come out with what's called the LKQ Holiday Cares Vote fundraiser opportunity, where LKQ selects, the Community Foundation selects 10 very deserving charities that are not specific to the trades, but they're 10 great, incredible charities that are part of this fundraiser, where between Giving Tuesday and this year it will go until Friday, December 8th, there's an online voting opportunity where anyone across the globe can go online and vote once per day per device for your favorite charity. And what that foundation has done is they're awarding $1 million. So to start off, each charity is automatically getting $50,000, which is incredible. And then the remaining $500,000 will be divided by the amount in the percentage of votes that each of the charities get. So between now and next Friday, December 8th, what we're encouraging our industry partners and friends, and again, thank you, Josh, for sharing that information, is go online, place your daily vote. Again, 1 vote per day per device. So if you have a cell phone, tablet, and laptop, that's 3 votes right there. But the funding raised from that will actually help the foundation be able to provide those student scholarships and grants and things like that. But when you go online to see those charities, obviously they're doing some incredible things. And obviously, we're asking for those that might be in the industry or have friends within the industry to consider voting for us. But we encourage people to go on and vote as many times as they can with those different devices and share that information like you did, because again, the percentage of the votes that we get will determine the end donation that we get. So back in 2021, where this initially kicked off with that first round, we actually were the winning organization. We got the most votes, which was obviously great. And thank you for all those that voted back in 2021. And that resulted in a $170,000 donation to the foundation. So I'm looking forward to another great year with this fundraising efforts. And anyone that can go online, and if you, Josh, if you're able to kind of share that link in the description with this podcast, that gives them that kind of direct line to go on and vote, and appreciate anybody voting for the foundation. And again, like I said, sharing with others as well, just to help support the industry and all the efforts that we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be sure to include that link in the description, and we'll include it in the social posts with the clips of this podcast as well, to make it easy for people to find and for people to vote. So you heard Brandon, you can vote once a day per device. So definitely give the Collision Repair Education Foundation a couple clicks if you have some time, and most importantly, share that information as well, because if we can keep the train going and keep that information being shared, obviously the opportunities go up and up and up. So definitely imploring some help from our audience and our listeners there. Appreciate everybody's willingness. All right, Brandon, what else? What else is there? I mean, it's a long year. It was a long year. A lot happened, right? I mean, and even what you've already shared is incredible. But what aren't I asking?
Another thing that we briefly talked about back in our first conversation, but there's been some kind of developments too, is I think we discussed, we in kind of understanding that, there's people that have perceptions about this industry and that are kind of engaged with students, and those being, school counselors. We, for the past couple of years, have been attending and exhibiting at the American School Counselor Association Conference. So this is their national school counselor body, which at their conference brings together 4,000 to 5,000 kindergarten through high school counselors from around the country. And we've been there, like I said, for the past couple of years. But the feedback that we got from the counselors at that event, where we exhibit and sometimes present, is thankfully a lot of the counselors were coming up to us saying, we understand that we need to start embracing the technical trades more. What they're looking for is resources and material to help educate their students. So don't expect me, the counselor, to remember everything about your industry specifically, because there's many other opportunities out there, and they just want to make sure that they're providing the accurate information. So what we've done and started actually this year is providing, if you want to call it, collision career information in a box, so that we can actually get that distributed to school counselors around the country, so that when they are having those conversations with their students, they can make sure that that information is correct and accurate in terms of what are the different career paths, what's the earning potential, and things like that. So that'll be an ongoing effort with them, because obviously that's not something where it's going to change overnight. But I'm at least encouraged by the feedback that we're getting from that group, in terms of them starting to understand that they need to embrace technical education and the trades more, because I think it's become almost a national topic of conversation about the traditional four-year college route might not be for everybody for different reasons, whether it's, being able to afford it, what job opportunities you have coming out of college. So that's something that I'm proud of the work that we're doing. And again, we're there on behalf of the industry to represent, again, all the different companies, the different industry segments. And many believe, if they think of the collision industry, like you talked about earlier, Josh, they might think, well, my only opportunities are probably at a body shop or an insurance company, which there are incredible opportunities there, but there are hundreds of different other career paths available to them in different opportunities in sales and communications and marketing and things like that. So I think making sure we're staying in front of that group is important and key for us to make sure that pipeline of students going into those local technical programs.
Absolutely. And that's incredible. I didn't even know an American School Counseling Association existed.
Not you.
You're opening mine and my audience's eyes to a whole bunch of new stuff today. No, that's amazing. And I think that's yet another way, to really help propel, awareness around your industry in particular. But really, I see it, and I said this in the last episode a year ago too, I remember it vividly. I see it as a catalyst, for the rest of the trades as well. I mean, it's a blueprint. I think I said this too, that you're providing, for others to find success in garnering attention, because that's the first step, right? We need people to be interested first and foremost. They need to at least raise an eyebrow and say, well, maybe that is a good career choice. To your point, it doesn't mean that they're going to be in a body shop or working for an insurance company. There's opportunities in marketing and management and sales and, in all these different areas just in this sector, but people don't usually think about that. They have to be pointed to it. And you guys are just doing an incredible job at doing the pointing.
And what's impactful, and you can imagine, Josh, when others hear this that might not be familiar with the industry and what the earning potential is, and I'm not sure if we brought this up on the last conversation, but there's a dealership here in the Chicagoland area that we're connected with, Arlington Toyota. I'll make sure they're a supporter of ours to give them a little shout out. Mm-hmm. And talking with them, they shared that their 24-year-old technician that doesn't even have the formal technical school training like others might have, that 24-year-old as a repair technician in their dealership earns over $200,000 a year. Huh. And they shared, Brandon, I would hire 10 more of these people if I could find them. And that's why we're engaged with them to get in front of the students in schools and things like that. But when you say that to a parent or somebody else that might be considering this field, they're like, wait, what? I'm like, that's the opportunity's there. Now, they're not going to make that day one, and they need to earn their way to get there, which is always important to tell these students. But, it's always, when you can tell stories like that, it just helps showcase what opportunities there are, which then hopefully then changes the mindset of like, oh, well, they can make an incredible living, whether it's the individual or maybe a parent or guardian. So sharing those kind of stories is obviously great when we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And imagine the job security too, right? I mean, in these industries, and I mean, the collision industry in particular, right? I mean, there are so many vehicles running around the States. It's just, it's amazing. And so, and I say that, right, because most of the time when people make the argument for college or even other routes, it's job security, job security, job security. Well, the trades need to be in that conversation as well, because if you ask me, sure, I'm a little biased, but there's no better opportunity for job security than in these industries, right? I mean, we are the backbone of society. So,
and what was interesting too, like over the pandemic, was we were considered essential business. So there was no chance of us closing because, like you said, people need to get around. There's transportation and people are going to get accidents. I don't think we're not quite to the point, nor I think we're going to be to the point anytime in the near future about, driverless vehicles where there's not going to be any accidents. So like you said, it's almost great job security because people are going to get accidents and we need people to fix the cars. And if we don't address this issue, Josh, and this is a sad truth, we're not too far off where you and I get into a car accident. We might not see our cars back to us for months because there's not enough people out there to fix those cars.
Yeah, which is a scary thought too. And I mean, you gotta take into consideration as well. We're talking a lot about cars, but I imagine there's a whole other public transportation. When it comes to collision and stuff like that. I mean, they get in accidents too, right? So all of this is intertwined. So it could affect not only the timeline on a personal vehicle, but also the transportation schedule routes if it gets bad enough, right? And I mean, you're talking about a lot of people who rely on that type of transportation to get to jobs every day on time. And, listen, I would hope employers would be understanding, but at the same time, they got businesses to run too. So, I point all this out, right? Because it's a, I don't think butterfly effect is the right term, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? It's all intertwined and everything domino effect is probably a better, but that's how important this stuff is. So I'm glad that we're talking. I'm glad that you're on the show again. I'm glad that you're doing all the things that you're doing to help mitigate some of this stuff, that so many don't have the foresight to be able to see. And of course you do. And your industry does, because that's your industry. You have to look into the future. But I'm just glad that someone is. So really great. Is there anything else that I'm missing, Brandon? Is there anything else that you guys are up to that you want to talk about?
Another example, Josh, about why getting involved with your local schools matters. We've had some great success stories, honestly, here in Illinois, where we were able through industry participation to get once shuttered collision school programs reopened, which is obviously always important because we usually hear the opposite in terms of a school or instructor reaching out to us saying that they're on the chopping block to be possibly closed, which we can't afford as long as it's a a good training facility that's actually doing what it should for helping those students learn what they need to in the industry. So there was two schools, one in central Illinois and one in the Rockford, Illinois area, which is a kind of northwest of Chicago. And they had programs in the past, and we approached them, we being the industry, approached them about what would be needed for us to be considered to open these programs back up. Because in both those markets, there's not a lot of collision school programs at all. And what the school kind of came back to us as the industry with is, show me an industry that will care and employ these students, and we might consider reopening these programs back up. So it's almost a challenge back to us, the industry, to say, if you guys show up, we might be able to consider reopening these programs up. So what we did, in addition to other industry volunteers, so it wasn't just us by any means, we basically, put the bat signal up and said, hey, industry, you're the ones complaining about needing people in these two markets. We need you to show up for these upcoming meetings to show the school that there's an industry that cares about them. So what we actually did was organize these meetings, and we actually had, what the school said, it was the largest advisory council meetings that the school had ever had, and the programs don't even exist yet. So it took that for them to be like, oh, well, you guys did exactly what we needed. Now we're going through the process of, getting them reopened and the budgets and the district and all that stuff. But it's a true testament to show, if you get involved and again, show the schools and the decision makers that you care, there's opportunities there. But again, you have to show up and care and show that you're going to be interested in these students to make a difference.
Back to exactly what you said about 10 minutes ago, right? National problem with the local solution. I mean, that's a perfect example, and I'm glad that you shared it because, I mean, that's actually getting out there and not just complaining about it, but showing the support, right? And it's making a difference clearly, which is incredible. That's awesome. All right, Brandon, we're gonna move to close here in just a minute, but I do want to remind the listeners out there that we are talking to a 501c3, a foundation. So if you are looking for any tax deductible donations or any anything like that for year end, please make sure you consider the Collision Repair Education Foundation, because clearly, as you just heard, they're making a difference. And they're putting their money where their mouth is, right? And actually taking this and physically closing the gap that we talk about on this show. Granted, it being in one industry, it's a very important industry when we talk about the skilled trades, and that donation could go a long, long way. And you see what kind of cool stuff that they're doing. So if you are looking for something like that, definitely consider it.
And I appreciate you saying that, Josh. And again, I think it's not just anyone within this industry, it's any car enthusiast that believes we need to have better support of, the shop class kind of mentality of, who we're helping to support. So appreciate anyone for that year-end consideration of a tax deductible donation. And kind of what you said, Josh, what's always important for me to share, we return 90 cents of every dollar that's donated goes back to the schools. So while we're lean in the operations and making sure the funding is going back to where it should, always important for a 501c to be able to state, but people can reach out to us at collisioneducationfoundation.org. But I would also highly encourage any of your listeners to go follow Collision Repair Education Foundation on our social media channels, because there are a lot of things coming up in the month of December that I want to make sure that they're aware of. We're going to be doing some highlights of the different work that we've done. There's some companies getting involved that will be doing some matching donations for those that might be able to consider some year-end support to us. So please follow the foundation on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, just so that they can see all the work that we're doing and see the success stories of what that support is helping to provide.
Excellent. And as a quick reminder, just before we wrap it up, make sure to check out that link in the description and vote for the Collision Repair Education Foundation in that link. And then also check out operativetalent.com to see that wicked 69 Camaro being restored and finished in the next couple of months here. So lots of cool resources for you guys to check out on this one. Brandon, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show again and spending your valuable time, with me and our listeners. And I think I speak on behalf of everyone who is listening when I say thank you for everything that you're doing in this industry and for the trades.
And I appreciate, Josh, the support and you having me back on just to help get the word out there. So thank you too. And hope you and your family have a great holiday season.
You as well. And, you always have an open invite to this show, my friend. So keep in touch and until next time.